Welcome back to the Make Life Work podcast with me, Si Jobling. On this podcast, we talk to people from around tech about how they find a balance between work, life and any side projects to share the stories, challenges and life hacks so others can learn themselves. This time round, I've joined forces with two previous guests of the podcast, Sam Hardacre and Mike Street, to ask each other questions about our side projects and invite along other members of our On the Side Slack community to share their stories. We'll also be answering questions from our listener community that we will be getting from around the socials. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, welcome to the Make Life Work podcast. I'm Si Jobling, delivery lead.
Hi, I'm Sam Hardacre. I'm a designer from Halifax.
And I'm Mike Street, lead developer from Brighton.
Amazing. That's our new format and new intro that we're going to try and get into a better habit of, because we're still trying to find our feet with this new format. Great to see you guys. How have things been? Sam, things all right?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm quite happy about the proposed announcements for lockdown easing, particularly around homeschooling, because it's a bit of a challenge. I've got to say. So I think our son is desperate to go back to school and be with his friends. So, and I don't blame him being stuck in the house with adults all day. It's a bit boring. So, yeah, doing fine. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm all right. The lockdown announcements always tend to pass me by because I feel like I've been in lockdown since last March because I've just worked from home. Whereas my wife, being a teacher, has gone back to school a couple of times. So for her, she was quite excited about it. But for me, I'm just waiting until someone tells me I can go to the park and drink a beer with someone. So until then, I will be in my garden office, staying away from everyone. Except virtually, of course. Of course. Sorry?
Yeah, similar to you, Mike. It's like my wife's a teacher as well. The kids are desperate to get back to school to an extent, and nothing will change for me because I'm going to carry on working from my home office and interacting with people like you over video calls. But I think it's promising. I've tweeted earlier about this roadmap they've put down. It's not a roadmap because you've got dates against it. Roadmaps never go on time. Come on, let's be realistic here. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I can see what we're getting at, and it's nice to know that there's a plan to an extent.
Yeah, I think it's a bit optimistic, to be quite honest.
Just a bit. And I'm very nervous about this, the first wave of schools opening. What's it going to do to kids and the parents and the grandparents? It's going to be a bit of a weird. Let's just suck it and see and go from the, the first steps.
Yeah. I had lots of excited friends chatting on WhatsApp last night, talking about, maybe we can go on holiday and things. And I was just like, don't think that's going to happen. I think that's a bit optimistic. So we'll take it with a pinch of salt. But hopefully by summer, we might be able to actually go to a pub and, see friends again. So that'd be quite nice.
Yep. Drive to the beach would be nice just to get out and do something different. Can't wait.
Yeah.
You should move to the coast. Then you don't have to drive to the beach. You can just walk. Oh, yeah. Bragging.
Oh, what a humble brag, dude.
Although on the South Coast, we don't have real beaches. Well, the South Coast has beaches, but Sussex doesn't have real beaches. It's just stones.
You can do the skimming trick, right?
Yeah, better than nothing.
Absolutely. And living bang in the middle of the England where I've got no access to beaches for at least 125 miles, I'm very jealous. Nice one. So, icebreaker alert. What we've been learning this week. Mike, do you want to go first?
Yes, I have learnt that you don't always have to work on your side project if you don't feel like it. I've also learned that giving Si access to your side project creates a lot of noise and makes you find lots of bugs. The side project I've been working on, the RSS side project, I kind of wrote a little blog post about it yesterday, which will be a week ago when this gets released. And I'm sure it will go in the show notes. And it's just sort of inviting people to just sign up and have a little play. Si was one of the first people to do that, and within minutes he was asking me how does he let me know of any bugs he's found, and he found a bug which me fixing that one bug caused me to find several more bugs that I whiled away my evening last night fixing bugs, which is a good thing, I suppose. So yeah, if anyone wants to sort of sign up and have a play around, there's a lot of features missing, like you can't reset your password at the moment, or you can't change your password at the moment. But if you want to just read some RSS, then feel free to sign up. And yeah, at the end of last week, I put down my computer and picked up my PlayStation controller and just drove around and killed some bad guys in the gaming world because I just didn't have the focus or motivation to work on my side project.
Yeah, apologies for all the feedback, but hey, you open it up to someone who's very vocal, as you know.
More than welcome.
I love it, and I love what you're trying to do with it, and I'm quite willing to keep sending you feedback as it comes in.
Carry on.
I've got that limited email address that I can use.
Oh yes, the secret address.
Yeah, we won't put that in the show notes just yet. Sam, what have you been learning?
It's a good question. To be honest, I think not so much learning this week. It's more just confirming that my lesson from last week is actually working. So if people didn't listen last week...
Rewind, listen again.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my lesson last week was to actually break down what's left to do on my project into smaller and smaller tasks, just so I can get a better view of how much I've got left to do and be a bit more sort of structured about the way I approach it. And that's working pretty well at the minute. I've still got some pretty big tasks encompassed into one single task. So I'm working on one that's been going on for a couple of days now, and I still haven't ticked it off. So it doesn't feel like I'm making much progress, but I am. I guess one thing that I suppose I've learned this week is just some time to just chill out. I had Friday off because it was half term last week. So I spent the morning playing Mario Kart with my son, which was really good. And then the afternoon, he went out. Yeah, I got the afternoon to myself. So I just sat and caught up on watching Westworld, which was really good. So I just sort of chilled out a little bit. So a bit of downtime, I suppose that's a good lesson.
Was that Westworld Series 3, the latest one?
Well, no, I'm catching up. So I finished season 1 and I'm on episode 2 of season 2, I think.
We finished series 3 last night or the night before. And the one thing I would recommend for watching Westworld is there's a website called, I think it's Vulture. Again, link will be in the show notes. And they do really nice, friendly write-ups of each Westworld episode. And it's not necessarily like really in-depth analysis. It just kind of cements the ideas and the thoughts that have happened in the episode in your mind, and like poses a couple of questions that make you go, oh yeah, actually I didn't think about that. Because Westworld at times gets really like heavy and confusing and stuff, and this they're really good at sort of just explaining in layman's terms what happens, and it just helps you understand the storyline a bit more. So especially with series 3, I got into the habit of the moment the episode finished, pick up my phone, find their write-up of that episode, read it and go, yes, it was that, or oh no, I got that wrong, kind of thing. So without highly recommend.
Without giving any spoilers away, I did get to the end of season 1 sort of thinking, well, I enjoyed that. Do I understand what went on? Yeah, maybe. I think so. Yeah. Because there's lots of sort of Nolan style non-linear storytelling going on, and
it's definitely not a dual screen kind of TV program. It has to have 113% of your attention. Otherwise it's you're going to be sort of rewatching episodes.
Absolutely. What about you, Si? What have you learned this week?
Well, like you, there's not been a huge amount of development. Last week I was off with the kids as well for a few days, and I watched too much TV. So what I am doing at the moment is recording a time journal of how much time I spend on doing things. It's not like ridiculous detail, but every half hour or so is a unit, as in like a Pomodoro, and I will literally record it as TV, family, chores, work. So that's one thing I've been trying to learn about. But the big learning for me this week really was that so-called contentious sensationalist headlines actually do get results on Twitter, which is quite nice. We named last week's episode title "Should Side Projects Be a Job Requirement?" and the amount of reactions just saying no. I was like, that's not kind of where we're going with this, but I'm glad you're responding, and it's good that it's creating a debate, but it was a very one-sided debate, and I thought, can you listen to the episode just to know where we're going with this? But it worked, it got engagement. I'm quite happy with that.
Clickbait for the win.
It was a little bit clickbaity, but hey, at least we know it works, and we've got to be careful that we don't push a fine line too far and become the Daily Mail.
We've got that in our pockets for if the listenership goes down.
Yeah.
Pick out another sensationalist headline that we can just get out there.
I can think of a few. I can think
I'm
of
sure we joked about a few in our Slack channel, didn't we? Earlier? I'm not going to go down that route, but it was good. It was insightful to see what works, because I think, having done this for so many years now, you struggle to get engagement on social sometimes. At least I know that kind of angle works, just posing a question and then getting a response from it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my learns for the week. I guess it's time to go into the questions. So who wants to take the first one? Is it me or was it one of you guys?
I think I'll take this first question if you want.
Go for it.
So the question was, do you use solo side projects, or do you prefer to work with friends or others? How about you, Mike?
From memory, I've never worked on a side project with anyone else. And I think that, except obviously this, of course, sorry. I think that is mainly because of the cheekiness of it. And it's like, if it's your side project, I feel like really cheeky saying, oh, do you want to work on this for free? You won't get any money. It's going to waste loads of your time. It's going to make you really annoyed when you can't solve a problem, but hey, it'll be fun. And I've never sort of found anyone to do that with. Obviously, following on from one of my comments last week was that if there was a designer that wanted to work on side projects, then I'd be biting their arm off. But and I suppose the other thing, I tend to use my side projects as exploration for different technologies and working in different methodologies and all of that. And so having no one relying on you sort of gives you an extra little bit of freedom to go, oh, I might try this tech stack, or I might try this process, or I don't get to do X coding in my day job. Let's build a side project that involves that. So I think generally the answer is no. Obviously, with like future side projects, it might actually be something that I look at, because I've not really started a big side project since being part of the on the side Slack community and stuff like that. So there might be actually resources there that people, that I could tap into to sound all businessy. And certainly with this RSS, I feel like I'm just banging on about my RSS side project. But with that, there's sort of scope for people to get involved on their own time, with their own processes, because it's built in a very modular way. So all the data is on a sort of a back-end API. So if someone wants to make a front-end app for it, they can go ahead without having to be reliant on me or my time, except if they're like, oh, if the API could do this, that would be great. But on the whole of it, the fact that I've built a front-end app already, I know that the API is pretty solid, but because it was me using it, I knew all the answers and bent it to my will, kind of thing. So if someone else wanted to build a front-end app for that would be great. Kind of a hashtag, whatever it is, self-promoting. So to answer your question, I ride solo with my side projects. Si, what about you? Do you drag other people into your side projects?
Kicking and screaming normally. Yeah. It's a funny one though, because I think you make a good point, right? You generally pick up a side project, myself included, just to scratch a personal itch. So, that's what it starts off as. It could be just, I want to explore something, I want to learn something, I want to make something. What I have found though, over time, especially if something gains traction and I'm struggling to do it myself, I will ask others to help. People that I generally think would be interested in doing it as well. I'm not going to go out there onto Twitter and go, anyone want to do this with me? That's just destined to fail. What I have done, for example, with the House of S podcast, I started doing that in 2005, all on my own. Then I joined forces with a local radio DJ, and he was like, yeah, totally in for this. And he joined in some voiceovers for me. That lasted about a year or so, it wasn't that long. And then as I was losing energy, let's be honest, I had a little one and I was struggling to find the time. Then got two more DJs in to join me. So between three of us, we could keep this thing going. And that's why I wanted to do it. I didn't want it to stop. So I have found, like with the House of Finesse, for example, collaboration has been key. I always take the piss out of the Vanilla Ice quote, stop, collaborate and listen. A lovely 90s reference for those that get it. So that's one of the classic examples. Again, a lot of the projects I do are very community-based. I've realised, like on the side we talk about over and over again, because obviously it's a takeover, but that started off as a community project anyway. It was a few people on Twitter thought we should create a safe space where we can talk about our side projects, and that's where it came from. And then it's grown, and like we are regulars there now and familiar faces. So it's great that it's not just on me to make sure it happens. Another one was the Derby County Twitter thing I did back in 2008, I think it was. I managed to grab the Derby County Twitter handle before it got popular. And then we just started doing commentary. I didn't do it. I got other people involved, and people actually knew the team, and they were really passionate about it. So now we've got a group of about 7 or 8 of us that every match day, one of them is going to do commentary. I'm just there as a tech advisor now. I love it. I don't have to do anything, or I'm not even taking credit for anything anymore. I'm not even in the credits. But it's nice to know that it's still going. It's 13,000 followers that, follow along every match day and engage. So answer to the original question, generally I collab, but I think many, like especially techie projects I pick up will be solo to start with. And if I need help, I might reach out and get some other people as well. A lot of rambling, but I think my angle is definitely collaboration rather than solo. How about you, Sam?
I think predominantly solo for me. I've got a few reasons for that. I guess one of the main reasons for is working on comics. You can work with lots of different people if you want. You can break it down to, writers, pencilers, colorists, inkers, all that kind of stuff. But that is just a logistical challenge in itself, finding people that you connect with, that you want to work with, that you want to work on a project together with. I have chatted with, creators in the past where someone sent me a script and the script just didn't really kind of say anything to me. So, I didn't really connect with it on any particular level. So, and I think also part of it is, you spend all day at work working with other people, and unless you're at the very top, you're taking orders from the top, essentially. We're working on this project this week or whatever. So I guess it's just quite nice to have something that's just mine, that's that is just for me to work on. I don't have to answer to anybody. I can work on it when I like. I can work on it for however I like, and the end result is it's there when I say it's there. If I'm not happy with a comic page that I'm working on, I'll keep working on it until I'm happy with it. And I suppose there's an element of the end goal when I eventually do achieve my goal of publishing this as a book. It's something I can point to and say, I've done that, aside from perhaps a bit of promotion where I might try and rope some friends in on Twitter and things, and, the printers involved. I'll be able to say, I've done all of that just from start to finish, and I can trace the line from initial concept through to the completion. And that's not something I can say very often about my day-to-day work. It's always, it's always as part of a bigger machine.
That final point's quite interesting though, because I think a lot of people take great pride in what they do sometimes and don't necessarily get all the credit that they might deserve. Some people might jump on a little project just to get some credit, wrong reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you come up with that idea and then see it through to fruition, that satisfaction is so much more than sharing it sometimes, right?
Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily about sort of receiving credit, I don't think, at least. It's more just, like you say, like a bit of self-gratification that you've done that.
And then with your print work, which is, predominantly it's going to be very print-based anyway, you've actually got a real-life thing you can hold and go, I made it. Look, Ma.
Yeah.
I won't get that with any of the tech stuff I make. I mean, with audio and podcasts, it's digital, it's a little bit different, but it's still not the same as looking like a painting or a print paste. Anything actually handmade must be really satisfying to hold.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the reasons why I've put off moving to digital artwork as well for a long time. I've only just started working on it in the last few months, and it's enjoyable and it's a lot faster, and I can definitely see the benefits of working digitally. But the one thing I am missing at the minute is I don't have that tangible kind of feel. I don't have that paper, like I don't have the ink on my fingers, and I guess at the end result you don't have the finished page either. So the book that I'm working on now, I've got original artwork that I can sort of look at selling at some point or bundling in as part of the Kickstarter or whatever. Whereas with digital, you don't have that, which is a bit of a shame, I suppose. But that's a different thing altogether. It's a different topic.
Mike, when we were talking about with inking, for example, it's very difficult to collaborate. You've got to work out a very specific process to make that work. But in tech, we're generally enabled to use open source to do. Anyone can collaborate on a piece of work generally. Do you see that as an enabler, though, when you're doing side projects, or more as a blocker to actually get more things done?
It depends on the scale of the side project, to be honest, because I can imagine, like, if it's a little side project that only involves a sort of few files or a few pages, then you're going to tread on each other's toes, and probably collaboration in the early sense, certainly in sort of getting it built, getting a prototype built, probably isn't the most sort of productive. But obviously it's one of those things that you might learn something else. You might learn about the processes. You might realize that actually two people can work on the same file if you've got your Git techniques nailed. But if it's a slightly bigger side project and you can compartmentalize different aspects of it, and I think as long as, certainly in tech, as long as your like conventions are all the same and your sort of methodologies and stuff align, then you're not going to get conflicting code being sort of merged in and overwritten with each other, because you could spend ages if one of you prefers tabs or spaces. That's the sort of the biggest debate in it. But like, as long as you're both using the same stuff like that, then it could probably slot in quite nicely. Especially if it's something like an API, you can take an endpoint each and work on that. And as long as you have a primary person who can make those decisions, like make the final decision, as it were, without the other person being too offended, then I think it could work.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm going back old school when I was Devin, and I was doing some side projects with Brian Suda on the calendar stuff that we talked about last week. Generally, he really easy to work with. He just complied with everything that I sort of suggested or made recommendations that made sense. It wasn't very difficult. But I think when you've got quite a lot of chefs in the pot, that's probably going to be more of a recipe for disaster than just getting something fun that you're making on the side, literally not a business model, not a big product, just something that you want to enjoy. Interesting though. So yeah, on the original topic of silo/side collaboration, seems like solo is the waiting at the moment for us.
I think the other thing, one sort of point I forgot to mention was then reliance on other people. There's none of that. Like I get really, if I've got sort of a side project idea, I get really excited about it and just want to do everything here and now, right now. And if I was relying on someone, I think it would really frustrate me, because it would be like, it's been half an hour, why haven't you pushed that code yet? Or, why haven't you emailed me back? Which it kind of leads into my role, actually, in the fact that since being promoted, it's something that I've really had to watch myself, because if there's something like internal or something that I get excited about, I in theory have the power to make the whole development team work on it, which everyone else would get really mad about. So I really have to bite my tongue and sort of log a ticket and just wait for the time to be scheduled in and stuff like that. And it's but I suppose having the side project gives me the freedom to just like hash out exactly what I want to work on and not have to wait for anyone else to do their bit, which again sort of is another plus for doing it solo.
True. I think the nature of my role as well is that I generally manage and lead people and teams to get things done rather than doing it myself. So I've managed to use that as my skill in my side projects now to kind of go, right then, who wants to do this? Or should I even ask you? Shall I get on with it first? Shall I lead rather than... It's all those metaphors that we talk about in the theories and stuff like that.
I think one of the things that's also been a benefit of working solo for me as well, particularly on this comic book, because it's the first thing that I've really worked on, is it's forcing me to learn the process as well. So, I could sort of put a tweet out or go find someone to maybe colour the book for me. Obviously, that might incur a cost, so that's a downside. But because I want to do it myself, I've been forced to go and research the various steps, how other people go about doing it, and I picked up loads of stuff just by doing it myself. So that on a future project, I've got to be honest, the colouring phase I've not particularly enjoyed the whole lot, purely because it's very hard to do to get it right. So on a future project, I might start looking for people to bring in, but at least then I've got an understanding of what I'd be asking them to undertake, and I've got a better understanding of how long things might take and all that kind of stuff. So there is benefit to working solo sometimes.
I think we covered that topic pretty well now. I'm mindful of time. Might want to move on to the next one. So, Mike, I think you want to take the next one, won't you?
Yes. So the next one, well, I kind of feel like a bit like a fraud. The next one was actually asked on Twitter by, I believe, a previous Make Life Work guest.
He was, yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Luke Murphy.
Friend of the show, as they say.
Friend of the show. Sorry. Is he a friend, though?
Yeah, kind of.
And he sort of, his question is posed to Sam. So I'm going to go to Sam first, but it could, it can be interpreted by us, the other two, as well. So he says, obvious one, but how do you maintain focus and interest on your side projects? You've been working on that comic for so long by now, I would have totally found something shiny to distract myself. So Sam, how do you maintain focus and, stay interested?
It's very, very difficult. I think if you've been following me on Instagram for the last few months, you'll notice that I'm starting to stray into the little areas that aren't involved with this particular comic. I suppose if I go back a year to when I signed with a publisher, I was working then with an editor who was giving feedback and things like that, and I think we talked about it in the first episode of the takeover, this idea of being accountable to other people. That really helped last year because I knew that my editor was waiting for scripts to be submitted so that he could review them, and we had a schedule to hit as well. We had a pretty tight schedule planned, so I was always in the back of my mind, I was thinking I need to start working on this to get that done and all that kind of stuff. It's got a little bit harder since the publisher sadly closed down, because then that reverts back to just being on my shoulders to motivate myself to get it done. Tick has been a really good help. I think I mentioned that on a previous episode, where I've got a daily habit which just says work on comics. So that's just something there on my phone that I get pinged, or I have little notifications that if I've not done it, I just know that I need, I do need to get that finished. I need to do something on that. And I think sheer stubbornness as well. I'm so close to the end now that I'm like, I've got to get this finished, because if I just suddenly stop and go, I'm going to work on something else, I'll kick myself in future, knowing that I'm 70% of the way there, maybe 80% of the way there now. So I've just got to keep going, even though I'm not enjoying these last few pages. I'm sort of really struggling to find motivation, to be quite honest, to get them done. I'm really not enjoying it, but I'm really just digging deep to get it finished.
So is it the fact that you've got an end goal and you can actually see it now? Is that what's motivating you the most?
Yes, for definite. Because to be honest, I think everyone feels this when you work on a project that's been going on for so long. You do get sick of looking at it, and you do get bored. And I do keep flicking through the pages and go, I don't want to tackle that one today, and I keep putting stuff off, just because I'm so used to seeing it all now, and it's all a bit sort of can't see the forest for the trees now. So. Like I said, there have been days where I've been sort of toying with, I'll just ink up I'll do a test, a test with inverted commas, a page for the issue 2, just to test out my new drawing tablet, and then that took up 3-4 days of me just tinkering with it. So I've had to be conscious of it and pull myself back out of that and go, right, get on with this now. How about you guys? What do you guys feel that on long projects?
Yeah, with my side projects, I kind of, in a similar kind of getting milestones with your editors and stuff, I set mini milestones in my head. And that's sort of how I keep the excitement going. And it's almost, I sort of mentioned before that I sometimes get to a point where I'm just like, don't want to look at my computer, go play PlayStation. And it's hitting those milestones. It's almost like when I get there, and then like, have I got the motivation to get to the next milestone? Yes, let's crack on for the next week or so. No, right, let's take a break on the PlayStation for a bit. And they're sort of very much like, so I have an idea, and just very quickly I get a proof of concept up, and that's like the first milestone. Stop, and I almost force myself to stop there and just start using it. So with the RSS app, I made this horrifically awful prototype, but it sat on my phone for a few days, and I was like, actually, I'm going to it quite a lot. this is something that I want to work on. And then it means that, so my next milestone was then to get like the data collation really like nailed. So I spent a couple of weeks just focused completely like on database structure, which sounds like really boring, but it kept me like, I was like, don't care about the front end, don't get distracted, just purely focus on database structure. And then it was like, yeah, that's good. And then API endpoints and stuff like that. And I kind of see it as this like cone, this sort of spiral. So it's sort of you start, and then one sort of revolution is very quick. The first revolution is very quick, just to see if if it's got legs, and B, if it's something that I'm excited about. So it means that the next like milestone is a little bit harder, a little bit further away. So it takes me a little bit longer. And then but it means that I've got like a milestone before I can get up to that next step. And so like right now I'm at the top of my cone, as it were. But putting the blog post out and getting Si and a couple of other people signed up and sending me things has almost kickstarted that next level of milestones, because it's just like right now there's another level of motivation because people are actually looking at this. And so if there's a bug, if I notice a bug, it can wait for weeks, because I can overlook it. Like an image that was missing and some overlapping text that's been there pretty much since day one, Si, that bug that you noticed, but you noticing it and telling me about it forced me to fix it within a day, kind of thing. So I think the motivation for me is just those milestones. And sometimes I get halfway up the cone and I'm like, it's usable, I don't want anyone else to use it, I'm happy with the bugs, let's stop there and move on. So right now I'm battling with, do I carry on working on the RSS stuff? Do I leave that alone and start a new kind of side project now? Or do I just have some downtime watching TV and playing PlayStation when I get my sort of side project time? So that's my current internal battle.
Nice. I like the idea of milestones.
Yeah, it's nothing that I actually write down. I don't, have it fixed anywhere. It's just in my mind. It's like, oh yeah, I'll work on that tonight because I want to get to X. And it's, sometimes I forget. Sometimes I spend an evening completely on something else, and then I feel a little bit guilty because it's like, oh, I didn't get towards that milestone. But
yeah, I think I need to sort of throw down the gauntlet and at some point just put a tweet out or something, just saying, right, in April, this book is going to be ready to buy, or something like that.
That's it. You've done it. That's your gauntlet. April.
You've done it now.
Oh, Christ.
It's audio as well. The milestone thing works, I find. In GitHub, I think you got project management stuff in there. You can actually set these milestones and work items that are related to that as well. And I'm going to be very delivery manager now. I'm like, right, if you've got a big thing to do, how are you going to break it down into manageable pieces, and is that even feasible in that timeline? Now you know the scale of what you got to do. I think, Sam, you mentioned recently you've got that plan down now, where there's about 25 or so items that you identified.
20 now.
See, so you've made progress with 5 out of 25. That's 25% progress, mate, in that time, right? So you can see what you can do in that window, and then you can go, well, actually, based on that cadence, it's going to take me until that point. Give yourself a bit of buffer. Boom, that's my milestone. That's my very high level, version of good agile delivery. But what I've found, like you asked me, that I'm being very similar. I need to set myself a milestone. So, for example, with this podcast, when I started doing it, I was like, well, I don't know how much energy and time I'm going to have to do this. So I want to give myself like a 5-episode season to see how that goes, and then take a break, and then come back to it and maybe do another 5. And then now into season 5 of doing 5-episode seasons, which is great because it proves that it's a sustainable rhythm I can get into. Now there's you two involved, we might be able to go a bit longer rather than it just being on me. But I think doing it in like manageable chunks is probably the way to keep focus and make it feel achievable. So I think, like you say, if you've got an idea of a massive project, or even like your RSS app, Mike, it's a nice, simple UX. It's a very simple user requirement, but there's always going to be new stuff you want to add. You mentioned like password resets or whatever. I was thinking more like, how do I mark this item that I like? Or, how do I bookmark them or something, something like that? And how do I remember where I got to? These little things that you said in Google Reader, but I don't think these are on your milestone list yet, but they might come up as more important people play with it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the original question about how do you maintain that focus is making it achievable rather than ridiculous and overwhelming and I'm out, I don't care anymore because this is fun. Not fun anymore.
Yeah, ultimately side projects are for fun, and if you're not having fun, you're not going to do it, are you? So having this huge overbearing project is not fun, but having like, oh, let's go play with database tables is, in my world, fun.
Back in my day, it was as well. I totally love to see it. I was listening to a conversation at work the other day. They were getting to the deep of the SQL of some queries. I went, ooh, now you're taking me back. I remember this. I think you'll find it's an outer join, not an inner join, but never mind. We're very techie now. Have we covered that topic well enough? Do you think that's how we're getting on with it?
I think so. I think Luke will be pretty pleased with those responses.
Yeah. If not, ask another question, Luke, and we'll get back to you.
There you go. Call to action. More questions, Luke. You got a good one there. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
Not today.
No, not really.
Plenty of nuggets of information there. We're going to whack them in the show notes, obviously, and get that out with the podcast when it comes out. We've not had many charity donations yet, I've noticed. I am playing with the idea of a month-long fundraiser, though, for next month. So I might drop that in. Nice. My wife has suggested I do something for the Endometriosis UK charity. And they're doing a 1 in 10, they're calling it. And I'm trying to work out what that 1 in 10 should be, whether it's running, fitness, something completely different. But that might be my goal for March.
Okay.
Wow. Look forward to hearing about it.
When I know what it is, I will tell you what it is. It was something that was thrown at me last night. Let's talk this one out.
I'm trying to think of some way that I could possibly join in with that, but I'm not sure I could devote any time to it at the moment. Maybe after this book's finished, I'll do my own sort of charity drive.
You heard it here first. Yeah, that's on the record now as well.
Next side project.
Indeed. Well, if that's it, we'll wrap it up and we will join forces again next week with any further questions. Anyone that's listening, thank you. We'd love to hear from you and get your thoughts on everything. We are available on all the socials at Make Life Work Pod on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. You can email us, hello@makelifeworkpodcast.com. All the show notes and archives are available on makelifeworkpodcast.com. We've got the On The Side Slack community that we keep talking about. You're welcome to join us. Go to ontheside.network and that should take you straight in. And if you are in the podcast apps, please give us a little like or a star or a review, even if it's a bad one. But at least we know what we're doing wrong. Give us the feedback in Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any other podcast apps you are using. That's everything from me. See you later.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.